Hey guys, it's some Mad Projects here, and today I'll be painting the left side crankcase of my Honda Express. So the first thing that I want to do is to clean off the surface, make sure that there's no leftover paint, or at least a little bit of it, no oils, nothing for that. What you want to do before starting any of this is make sure you're in a well-ventilated area, you're wearing any safety equipment for painting, and being around acetone like gloves and a respirator. Just don't want to take any chances with the amount of fumes all these things produce. So what I got for doing that is some acetone, some graffiti remover to get rid of the old spray paint, and metal wire brush or spinning brush. And some other cases you can use brake cleaner. That works really well for getting the grease off, but I'm choosing to use acetone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the acetone, my rag, get the rag wet with some acetone, just clean down the entire surface. And acetone's also great with removing paint, any type of paint. So if you find any paint spots, you can just get acetone on it, take a metal wire brush to it, and the paint should come right off. And if you have a lot of paint, just do the same process. It'll take a lot longer, but it will be worth it if you do get down to bare metal. So you can see right here I have a little bit of extra paint. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my acetone. You can try spilling it on it, but what I'm going to do is just get this, stick it inside the acetone bottle, get it wet. Now we'll just want to get it wet, work on it, and see it's coming right off. So what you want to do is to get your body filler and your hardener. You want to get a non-porous surface like wax paper, this is a used one, or some aluminum foil. And you want to get a glob of it, put enough hardener on, and fill up the holes, let it dry, sand it off. One thing I do for this whole process is get a respirator like this, so you don't have to deal with the fumes that this body filler produces. Now I want to apply pretty hard pressure to this one, so you can fill up those little holes. Kind of thing. Just get it smooth on top of it, so you don't have to go back over with it, because that can be a really big pain. Alright. After letting it dry for a little bit, what you want to do is get a finer grit sandpaper. This is a 80 grit, so this isn't super fine. But you want to get a piece of that. This is actually a sandpaper made for metal, so it works a lot better in these type of situations. So what you want to do here is just smooth out all the surfaces. You don't want to scratch any of the paint, but you want to get it down to bare metal except for the holes. You want to leave that filled with the Bondo so it doesn't show up in the paint, because if you run your hand over it and it's completely smooth, you can't feel it with your eyes closed, then it won't show up in the paint, and that's where you want to get it to. So what you want to do is start with your more coarse grit sandpaper, and once you get close to the area you're trying to fill up, go to a finer one. What I used was a 400 grit sandpaper, and it worked perfectly for this application. And you can actually see the little holes are now filled and now completely smooth. Alright, now that it's done on this part, if you were to close your eyes and rub over this, I cannot tell where it is. It is completely smooth and it will not show up on the paint. Now I'm going to move over to these a little bit harder areas. I'm just filling in some cracks. That will take a little longer. So what I'm going to be doing on this one is I'm going to be using 5 coats. I'm going to first start with sandable primer and a bonding primer, a gray undercoat, top coat it with some silver wheel paint, kind of gives it a gloss, then finish it over with matte clear enamel to just protect it. Going over this one more time with some acetone. Alright, so what you want to do next is get some masking tape, cover off any areas you don't want to get paint on. Now take your time with this part. You just want to make sure you're a good distance away so you don't have any running with the paint. Now, since I used a sandable primer, what you want to use is 600 grit sandpaper and just gently sand down the surface. What you want to do after sanding down the surface is you want to get your rag and your isopropyl alcohol, just clean off the surface to get rid of all the dust. Now there are a couple things you can do after cleaning off the surface. You can go back to your sandable sandpaper and recoat it and resand it, but what I'm choosing to do is I'm going to use a bonding primer to get on the surface, so I just have multiple layers of primer. I feel like this is a better method for what I'm doing. Now really take your time with this. It's going to sound like I'm repeating myself, but patience is key while painting. You really just want to take your time just to make sure you have good coverage so it will look best. You want to make sure to get all angles of it. This is a quick side note. The primer that I used was this Rust-Oleum bonding primer. I love this stuff. It sticks onto the metal extremely well, but it has one downside. It's that little hairs come out of the paint and it gets stuck on top of the surface. So after each round of priming, what you want to do is to get your finest sandpaper, get all the little particles off, and then continue painting. That's what I've been doing. You can see here the particles I'm talking about. Alright, so what I did, I took my sandpaper, rubbed off all the little particles, and also put it on not a fabric tarp, it's on a rain tarp now. Because sometimes when you're painting, you can mess up. Painting is pretty hard. I'm gonna say that. Painting is pretty hard, so if you mess up, don't be afraid to just take a step back, let it dry off, sand it off, and just restart from there. Never be afraid to mess up. That's my advice for doing all this, is that if you mess up, it is not a big deal. You can always restart. Just make sure to take your time. Okay, so after sanding away all the particles on top of the paint, I'm now gonna rub it back down with some alcohol and get to another layer of paint. Right, so for our next layer of paint, we're gonna be using this right here. Just a gray undercoat. So our wheel paint, which is not super thick, it's not a very thick covering, it just kind of glosses over it. We don't have to put as much on so it doesn't get as thick. So we're gonna put this gray paint and primer over it just to make it have a way more durable and better look. All right, this paint it's looking very good. There are only a couple little of those fur things still on the paint. It is not tacky anymore after about 15 minutes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get sandpaper, take those off again, recoat it just around those areas, get under here where it's kind of whitish. I might flip it around just to get those white sides or non-painted sides under it, not touching where the seal is so the oil doesn't leak out. And then time for this, the final coat, and then I can put it on the moped. All right guys, so we're getting close to the end. All we have now is our wheel paint and our clear coat enamel. Now, to prevent the paint from looking bad around the bolts, I'm just gonna go ahead and stick them in, put something under it so that I can get to the undersides of everything, and so that these seat all the way. So when you tighten them down, torque them down, you don't have paint coming out of the bottom. So what we're gonna do is lift it up onto a surface like this so that all the screws seat. So now the paint will only go on the screws, which are easier to remove paint from. So we don't have paint inside of the little crevices that the screws seat in. So what we're gonna do now is give it close to its final coating. Now you don't want too much of this stuff, just enough to give it a certain look until it gets that shine, glisten you want out of the gray. Oh man, guys, this is looking really, really good. I'm excited about this. Oh man, now that we're finished with this, I am super excited with the outcome. It looks way better than it ever has before. Oh man, I can't wait to put the clear coat on it. Let's put it on the moped, see how it looks. Next, it's time for the clear coat though, which is right here. I'm gonna be going for a matte clear enamel instead of a gloss. All right guys, a couple days later, time to put on the last layer of paint. I am so excited. I've been waiting a couple of days to do this. So since it's been sitting for a couple of days, I'm going to just clean it off with a clean rag, not a dirty one like this. So let me grab a clean one real quick. All right guys, next thing you want to do is to get your rubbing alcohol and your towel. Like I did before, just get the towel wet and clean it off. All right, now after wiping it down and letting it dry, time to apply the final coat. I'm super excited about it. Alright guys, now here's the finished product of the new side crankcase. I think it looks amazing. Now I did make a video on how to install this. That will be the video coming out next, which should be in a little while, not too long. But this is the finished product. It looks way amazing than I thought it would, in my opinion. Now that is a video on how you can paint any part on your moped, car, truck, anything you own that could take a little bit of beating. That's how you paint it. So, see you guys next time. Make sure to like and subscribe, and more videos should be coming out soon.